You know that sound, don't you? That jarring, piercing, almost sickening sound that rips through the mundane hum of a normal school day. It's the sound of an alarm, not a fire alarm, but something far more sinister. A voice, calm yet chilling, echoes through the intercom. Attention all staff and students. This is a lockdown. I repeat, lockdown. Your heart leaps into your throat. Your blood runs cold. The world shrinks to the four walls around you. Every shadow feels like a threat. Every creak of the building becomes a monster's footsteps. This isn't a drill. This is real. We've all practiced them. The drills, hiding under desks, turning off lights, trying to be silent. But what happens when the drill ends and the terror doesn't? What happens when that nightmare scenario actually unfolds and the only thing standing between you and unimaginable horror is a locked door and a silent prayer? Today, we're going to dive into the chilling darkness of 3 true school lockdown stories. These aren't urban legends or campfire tales. These are real accounts from students and teachers who lived through the terror, trapped, waiting, wondering if they would ever see outside those walls again. Prepare yourselves, because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened. Story 1. The Silence of the Empty Hallway, Ohio, 2018. It was a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning for Sarah, a high school junior in a quiet suburban town in Ohio. History class was dragging, the clock ticking agonizingly slow. Then it happened. The piercing, high-pitched wail of the emergency alarm. It wasn't the regular fire alarm. This was different. This was the one they dreaded. The cold, robotic voice of the principal followed, echoing from every speaker. Lockdown. Lockdown. This is not a drill. Panic. Instant, suffocating panic. But trained instincts kicked in. Mr. Harrison, their history teacher, a man usually full of jokes, was now a silent, efficient commander. Lights off, get to the corner, stay absolutely quiet. The blinds were pulled down, desks were pushed against the door, a flimsy barricade against an unknown threat. Sarah huddled with her classmates in the darkest corner, bodies pressed together, hearts hammering like trapped birds. The silence was the worst part, an unnatural, heavy silence that pressed in on them. No whispered jokes, no rustling papers, just the shared, ragged breaths of 24 teenagers and their teacher. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat, a frantic drum in her ears. But then, something else broke the silence. A faint thump, 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 coming from the hallway. It wasn't a fire. It wasn't a drill. The thumping grew louder, closer. It sounded heavy, deliberate. It sounded like someone walking. No one dared to breathe. Mr. Harrison, his face pale, held a stapler like a weapon. The thumping passed their door, then seemed to stop just beyond it. A long, agonizing pause. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, imagining the worst, a shadowed figure standing just outside, listening. She could almost feel eyes on the door. Then, the thumping slowly started again, moving away, growing fainter until it was gone. They stayed like that for another hour, paralyzed by the memory of those footsteps. Later, when the all clear finally came, the principal explained there had been an active threat in the building, now neutralized. But no one ever explained who or what was making those deliberate, chilling thumps in the empty hallway. Sarah still hears them in her nightmares. Story 2. The Whispers Through the Vent, California, 2021. Maria was a 5th grade teacher in a vibrant, bustling elementary school in California. Her class was a lively bunch, full of giggles and questions. On this particular afternoon, they were drawing a peaceful scene until the intercom crackled. Teacher, code red. Lock all doors and windows. No one in, no one out. The words hit like a physical blow. Code red. Not a drill. Maria's training took over. She rushed her 25 students into the small windowless storage closet at the back of the classroom. "Be absolutely quiet, like ninjas," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. She barricaded the classroom door with her heavy desk, then slipped into the closet with her terrified students. They sat on the floor, little bodies pressed against each other, whimpering softly. Maria held them close, trying to project calm she didn't feel. The closet was dark, stuffy, and silent, save for the muffled sobs of a few children. And then it began. A faint whisper. It seemed to come from above, from the air vent that connected their closet to the rest of the school's ventilation system. It was too soft to make out words at first, just a low, guttural murmur. Maria froze. She told the children to put their hands over their mouths. The whispers became clearer. It sounded like a man's voice, angry, distorted, and getting closer. One of the children, a little boy named Ethan, pointed a tiny, trembling finger at the vent, his eyes wide with terror. Maria could hear it now, just barely. Not distinct words, but the tone, a menacing, frustrated growl. It was coming from the hallway, filtering through the vents, right into their hiding place. The sounds continued for what felt like an eternity. Muttering, a distant crash, then a horrifying, guttural shout that echoed through the small space. Maria covered Ethan's ears, tears silently streaming down her face. She thought they were going to be discovered, that the vent was their downfall. Eventually, the sounds faded, and the all clear came an hour later. The police later said an intruder had been in the school, but they couldn't explain how his angry whispers had traveled directly into Maria's closet vent. She often wonders if he knew they were there, listening. Story 3. The Ringing Phone, Texas, 2015. Mr. Jenkins, a math teacher at a middle school in Texas, was a man of routine. Every morning he'd arrive early, brew his coffee, and prepare for the day. This particular morning, he was alone in his classroom, the first bell still minutes away. Suddenly, the school's lockdown alarm blared. This wasn't a drill. He knew it immediately. The principal's voice was strained. Active threat. Secure your rooms. Do not open doors for anyone. Mr. Jenkins quickly locked his classroom door, pulled the blinds, and turned off the lights. He moved behind his heavy desk, out of sight from the door. The school was usually full of early morning chatter, but now a terrifying silence descended. He could hear distant sirens, then silence again, just the thumping of his own heart. His desk phone rang. He stared at it. It was the internal line, the direct line from the office. He knew no one was supposed to use phones during a lockdown. Every fiber of his being screamed not to answer. But what if it was the principal with urgent information? What if it was a mistake? The phone rang again and again. Its shrill, insistent ring was deafening in the absolute silence of the room. He felt a cold dread creeping up his spine. Who would be calling him, specifically, in a lockdown? On the fourth ring, he slowly reached out, his hands shaking, and lifted the receiver. He held it to his ear, listening. There was no voice, no static, just a soft, rhythmic click, click, click make. It sounded like someone was slowly, deliberately pressing a button on the other end of the line. A cold, mechanical, utterly unnerving sound. He hung up immediately, his hand clammy. The phone didn't ring again. When the lockdown was lifted hours later, the police confirmed an armed intruder had been on campus, but was apprehended. Mr. Jenkins later asked the office staff about the calls. They checked the logs. No outgoing calls were made to his room during the lockdown. His phone shouldn't have rung. He never taught in that classroom again. These stories aren't just terrifying because of the threat outside, but because of the claustrophobic dread of being trapped. the agonizing uncertainty in the chilling, unexplainable details that linger long after the all clear is given. They remind us that sometimes the true horror isn't just what you see, but what you hear, what you feel, and what you can't explain when the world outside your door turns into a nightmare. If these unsettling accounts sent shivers down your spine, and you want to delve deeper into the true stories of the unexplained and the terrifying, then make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next.